Welcome to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series, where we focus on how financial advisors work, live, and give to their local communities and our greater financial services industry. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris Gandy from Advisor Today's podcast with our wonderful co-host, Suzanne Kirawan. Suzanne, how are you?
I'm good, Chris. How are you?
I am excellent. It's a wonderful day. So, Suzanne, we have a wonderful guest today. Would you share with us who our guest is today and also who our sponsor is for today's show?
Sure, I'd be delighted to, Chris. So today we've got Rith Nou with us. Rith works at New York Life. She's going to give us a little bit about herself in just a second. But today's episode is sponsored by NAIFA's Financial Security Advocate Badge. If you are a NAIFA member and you don't hold this, it's completely free to get. But it's going to take you through the 101, 201, and 301 of building grassroots relationships. So some of NAIFA's kind of secret sauce. And I think we'll probably get into that a little bit today with Rith, because she's a big fan of advocacy and she's had some cool experiences of late. But if you don't have that badge, you can sign up on the member portal. And we have a special NAIFA Live this week, where if you join us on Thursday of this week, we're going to go through the entire program in real time. And at the end of it, you will get yourself that actual badge. We issue it through Credly. You can put it on LinkedIn. You can use it in your marketing, right? Letting clients know that you actually are out there being an active participant in the political process and advocating for their needs. So we're excited for that. So with that, Rith, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thanks. Thank you guys for having me. And what time is it at, Suzanne, on Thursday?
2:00. 2:00 Eastern.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll definitely be on.
Okay, excellent. Great.
I'm not sure what am I supposed to say.
Oh, Chris is trying to ask you a question, but he's...
Oh, okay.
Let's start with, I mute myself so you guys can't hear my background. You know, I'm in a construction zone. No, I'm just joking.
He's on the move. This is how he is. This is the life of an advisor, right? You're on the move.
It's comedy hour. It's comedy hour. So I don't want you guys to hear all the backgrounds of what happened behind the scenes. But with that being said, so how do you pronounce? So someone might see this and they may say, okay, I don't want to pronounce your name wrong. I know when you approach people and you connect with people, it's important that you connect with them in a way that makes sense. So how do you pronounce your full name?
Rith, Rith. It's
just like it's spelled.
Yep. And in Sanskrit, it means powerful.
Powerful.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. Appropriate. That's very apropos.
So Rith the Powerful. Okay. So let's talk. It's me and you. We're having a conversation about life, fun, the business, and really kind of insight. Okay. So sit back, relax, see, for our young advisors, people that are building their business, that are unique in the business. We want to talk to you a little bit about, so share with us a little bit about your story, your journey. How did you get started in the business of financial services?
I started in banking. I hated math growing up. And then I'm still surprised that I'm still in financial industry. But I knew from a young age of helping a lot of immigrants at before I was 10, helping them call for bills. And, we were refugees and we came to we were sponsored by a church and we were placed in Chicago when it was crack and cocaine was introduced to the streets. So we were really in a bad part. And a lot of the Cambodians stuck together. We lived in this brick building. And I just remember my mom would be like, oh, my daughter speaks English. Go let her translate for you. So I always had this calling of helping others, and from such a young age because of my mother. And she was pretty much kind of like a single mom. So growing up, we ended up moving around so much, but I ended up going into banking as a way to kind of understand the American financial system, to kind of understand the foundations and how do we get to the American dream, and let me try to do it the right way. And whatever I learn, I want to be able to share it, right? And then also create a legacy or imprint on someone individually. It doesn't have to be the masses, but I figure one by one, I think when we know what our roots and our genuine like why is, right? And it'll keep you going. And I think being here in New York Life, I've been doing this for 10 years. And I actually ended up coming here from banking for 8 years. And it was because my dad was retiring. And I realized how confusing it was to transition, right? If anybody's ever gone through any kind of transitions, like especially retiring your parents who are immigrants and trying to like do that, it was really hard. But I knew that I didn't want the obligation out of all the siblings of paying for any of the final expenses and all that. So I did my research and I ended up coming to New York Life based on my research and got my parents insured, and I was offered a job. So this is how I got here in a very long story short.
So your journey is not a direct one. I think that's something to be said about our business, right? Our business is one where on a regular basis, we constantly are having to navigate it, even though your first direction might have been banking. You ended up in our industry as a opportunity and saw the opportunity and have run with it 10 years in. So you're officially a vet now. You're a veteran.
And a success.
I don't know. I feel like I'm still a rookie and I'm still learning. Like every time I meet people, I'm just like I'm very inspired by everyone's story, and it's refreshing,
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Someone once told me, no one started off in the insurance business being in the insurance business. We all started somewhere else, and somehow we ended up migrating here and creating this kind of unique culture. So let's talk about that struggle. You mentioned the fact that you are a younger advisor, right? So we'll talk about that. As a younger advisor, what was some of the obstacles that you had to overcome early on in the business to start to see some of the success that you're having?
Okay. Thank you I really feel very flattered that I think it's the Asian gene, but I'm really not that young. I am 42.
In insurance world, that's young.
It is? Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again, please?
So the question is, can you share with us some of the struggles? What was the hardest thing that you had to overcome on your way up to having the success that you're having?
I think the struggles and I think just evolving, I realized that it's our own unlimiting beliefs about ourselves. It comes into surface in this business, and you have to really truly get uncomfortable because and if you're a private or introverted person, it's tough. But I met people who are introverted and that have been very successful in this business. And I think the struggle is ourselves. I think we have so many horrible self-talk that we just need to work through. And we really have to change our conversation in ourselves and its mindset. I believe our mindset has to, and I think the transition from a 9 to 5, right? You go from the banking world where it's very strict 9 to 5, and when you're doing this business, you're like, hey, you make up your own schedule and your own time. And I think that was the other struggle, right? And I think, and then you get trained in the business to produce, but at that same time, they're not really training you how to run the business. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that comes into part with networking and meeting other advisors and having that open conversation and being genuinely you so that you ask the right questions that helps you. So if something isn't working for you, I remember the resilience that I learned about myself was making sure that I put myself in a position that I'm growing and I'm learning. And if the outside world is not giving me that, then I need to go chase after that and put myself in those positions so that I can do and be successful as anyone else in this business, right?
Well, I think that's something to be said, right? So you said a couple of things pretty unique. The first thing you did say is that don't just wait for something to happen, go create something to happen. So that's insight, right? And that happens not only from who you are and what you believe, but also from experience, right? So the idea of don't wait for opportunities to happen, to be open to constantly learning. As you mentioned, being a sponge. Right? When you first come into business, you had a lot of knowledge in other things, but not in this business, right? And the other thing is the industry for industry pros is that they teach us to sell. It's interesting. I talk about all the time is that early on, I said, I'm going to teach people how to build a business that sells insurance and financial services, not how to sell insurance. There's a difference, right? So the idea is that we can teach a lot of people how to sell a policy. That's easy. But to teach someone how to build a business, a process, a system, an support organization, an organization that allows for you to be able to take that and be able to produce. We just happen to be selling insurance. We could be selling widgets, right? If we understand how a business works, and again, we just happen to be our widget is financial services, right? So it's pretty unique perspective is that you had to learn two things: how to make money, being a selling product, and then you also had to figure out how to run a business. And unfortunately, those two don't necessarily go hand in hand, and you don't learn them all at the same time.
Yeah, that's overwhelming, especially for anyone who's coming into the business, right? You don't realize that you are your brand. And no matter if you're working for a company or anything, you are your brand. And I think when you really put yourself in the shoes of the consumers or at least like clients, right? I think the difference between being in banking and here is like, I get to pick and choose the clients I want to work with versus banking. I had no say in that, and I think that I think it was law of attraction, right? I think that nothing is a coincidence. And I think that, and like today, I did not expect you at all, Chris. And I'm like, I'm a little floored. I'm really excited. I'm like, whoa, this is kind of cool. But everything comes to you in like weird ways. And I like life to coming in as a surprise like that. Right. And it's such a blessing. And you just start your day off with gratitude and everything else is just beautiful.
I was going to say, you definitely have an abundance mindset. You definitely are looking at things from that standpoint, which I'm sure is part of your success. I wanted to tap into, I think it was interesting. You're talking about going from the banking world of very really structured days to now having your own business and being on your own time. Do you have any time management tips, or how do you run kind of your life that you've been successful, because you're one of the 12% that have made it in this business more than 3-4 years. So you have probably some tips there on time management to share.
I think I'm still at awe. Sometimes I think we were doing at the congressional conference, and I was with Radanya, and we were all in a group meeting with like a legislator. And she's like, Rith, you've been here. I was like saying, like, I worked in the cultural market about like 8 to 9 years. She's like, Rith, you're going into your 10th year. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, that's a pretty big deal. Like, I didn't like how did time fly? But I think, I'm sorry, I'm going to have you repeat it because I want to answer it.
Yeah, I was saying, so for other advisors who are out there listening, who are building their business, what tips do you have from a time management standpoint? How do you run how do you conduct your business?
I have a really great mentor who's my business partner, Peter McEvan. And I think that if you pick somebody that you really, truly admire and the way they run their business, pick somebody, like it could be anyone, right? And I picked him, and I also found another business partner who's been doing this for over 20 years. And I love his ethical, his process. And, they teach us not to try to reinvent the process or whatever. It works, right? And then listening and actually asking him personal questions of how his day runs. It also helped me structure how I should be running my business so that it's successful as his, because I think he's like a Kraft, Bill Belichick, and Brady put together. His brain is amazing. And when you find someone like that, you try to really hone into the kind of energy that they put into it. And I think that one is getting a really good mentor that you can mentor and kind of look, even if you don't talk to them that much, but knowing and seeing how they work. I mean, I see his car in the morning, And I want to make sure that I'm in the same part, like at the parking lot at the same time, running my business. And, like the way he runs his business, I want to be doing that. And, I want to, when he walks into a room, you want him as your advisor. And I want to have that same kind of like profound energy that he brings in. And just his analytical skills is just amazing. And I get so much language from him, making sure that I go to his GIDs, because people all want to, he runs like one of the most successful offices in the country. So everybody wants to see him. So when he has a classroom set up on Fridays, I'm there and he talks about it, right? When you look at your calendar, have your non-negotiables in there, but also like make sure that you have the day where it's to yourself. And I think it's just pure genius to think of like how he runs his schedule, and a little bit old fashioned, but I feel like there's a shift, right, in this world, and timing is everything. There's a shift of the old school and you're bringing in the new school, but the new school has skipped a lot of the other like hardships that you kind of build into this, right? And it's really hard to describe because they didn't go through the all that work in order to get here. So it's really hard because they kind of skipped a lot, right? And I feel like I'm very fortunate because I'm in that middle crust of the old school, like retiring, and I'm watching as they grow, and I'm mentoring the younger ones, and it's such a difference. So, and I think the second thing I would really give into is to volunteer. I think that is so underrated, but I think volunteering really puts things into perspective. And anytime I mentor anyone, I always tell them, I'm like, find a passion, whatever passion you like, find a cause that you really, truly, dearly feel for. And go and volunteer, because it makes you humble and it keeps you grounded, and it keeps you as a student in the seat to keep learning, because there's so much to learn and there's so many like abundance of like resources around, right? We're just not looking.
Yeah, that's true.
So talk to us a little bit about the way you've gone about. I mean, you are young in the business. You've obviously had some success. Many people will be inspired by hearing you on this podcast. One, you understood that, and people will see the fact that you've embraced immigration and the importance of it to you. If not, then maybe you may not have this opportunity, or your parents may not have this opportunity to have you here and be able to participate in an industry that at times it's somewhat challenging to bring other cultures into this business. So share with us your cultural perspective. How have you taken your background and created a unique value proposition to the marketplace?
I think coming in as an immigrant, I think I understand a lot of the challenges that the immigrants face when it comes to like trusting an advisor, and being with like someone who understands the culture, right? And I feel like I it's funny how life kind of like God kind of puts you into all these things, and then like it kind of combines into it. Growing up, I always was the girl who started a multicultural like clubs in high school, in college, doing fundraisers. And it's funny because like when you kind of like get to the precipice of like your business, right? Because it really brings you back down to like, wow, like all of that had to happen for me to be here. And I see the market is insatiable. And I think that like, we just need to have more of those conversations and more interactions of having people with different backgrounds in a room together so that we can share it. And I call myself a foodie because I love food and I love fusion food. And I've been like, I love MasterChef. And I think the one thing that really I love is having food as a conversation to bring cultures together, right? And it's one of my things that I love doing. And I meet so many people because we all have one thing in common, and it's the interest of foodies and loving like different culture foods. So that's kind of like, I think that has a lot to do with the cultural market and how I've like embraced a lot of the different cultures. So growing up, I mean, I was born in Thailand at a refugee camp and Cambodian with my parents ethnicity wise, but I always called myself a confused Cambodian because all my friends were South Asians. So doing multicultural dances and then I embraced like the Latin culture because I love the music. So music, food, all of the, the stuff that I love, and like having that and combined, like when I hear music, it gets me going. And I think that's how I enter the market, like to introduce myself to like, hey, like I love that music too. Or I love this too. I love dance hall. And I'm part of a whole Zumba dance hall thing. And then I have my group of friends where I'm sharing and embracing my culture as much as they're sharing their culture and the music and everything else, and having that conversation. It's like a good start, right? No matter what color, race you are, as long as you're humble and you're embracing a different culture, you're good. And I don't think that there's any. I think just to stay open, and life will just amuse you because you end up being where you're supposed to be, and just embrace it. And a lot of things happen to stay humble.
Yeah. So one, you've got a lot of faith, and then two, Chris, we need to go with Rith because it sounds like she's just party time all the time. Great party.
This is part of my problem. If Peter has anything to say, it's like that. That's
but
it.
that's part of NAIFA too. I mean, that's, NAIFA people. I mean, you know each other when you find a good NAIFA member, because we do like to get together and have a great time together. It's part of it. I don't know any NAIFA members that aren't foodies, right? They don't like music. It's a real thing. Yeah, it's true.
So Suzanne, we found who we should have direct us on our food journey.
100%.
Anytime. Anybody wants to come to Boston, I will let you know where to go, and it will be ethnical food.
We take our podcast on the road to a food place. We will have to consult you on where to go. So let's shift gears. So where are you going? Tell us the big vision you have for your business, your practice, and the impact you would like to have when people say, I worked with Rith. Share with us that vision.
My vision of what my business looks like. I mean, I've been told so many times, and I've been approached many times to, everybody's like, well, do you want to get into being a partner role? And I'd say to myself, I'm like, no, I was a manager at the bank and I don't want to manage people. It's not my calling. And I actually really love what I do, and I'm very passionate at what I do. And I kind of know what I wanted to do when I first started. And that's how I ended up with one of my mentors. And he pitched it to me because he's like, I've never met somebody young who knew exactly what they want. And my goal was to have a financial firm that is full of advisors that are multicultural. I want people to come to the firm knowing that there's somebody that speaks their language, that understands their culture, and they want to work in that. And I think that that has also progressed a lot in this country now, that, a lot of companies are honing into having a diverse group of people in their decision-making or pitching a sale, right? To make sure that they have all the different views. And I think one of the things I would love for is to create that. And we came up with a beautiful story and a mission statement. And I think we're going to create a business next year. We found a name, and I don't want to share it until it's really happened. But it's we're working and building the business that I've always envisioned, of having a really diverse group of people, agents who share the same kind of belief, right? And being intentional about who you want to be with your practice, because it's about the people, and they're the heroes in the story. And I want to be able to have people who are in it for the right reasons. So.
Well, the industry is better because you are in it. I can tell you that, not having met you in person, this is I'll get a chance to meet you in Boston. I'm right around the corner. I'll be in Boston speaking And we're playing around with the topic, but I think it's going to be very impactful. I'm going to share some insight, some stories, some experiences, some challenges and defaults and failures, right? And hopefully in doing that, people are inspired to do that much more. So just by you being here, you're inspiring others who are potentially listening to you, wondering, what will I be when I grow up? Ooh, I want to be like you, right? So with that being said, couple other things. Share with us about your NAIFA journey. You're on NAIFA Advisors. You're on the podcast. So share with us the importance of NAIFA to you and why you decided to be so involved. And then out there to our general public, what would you say to NAIFA members about getting other people who aren't NAIFA members involved?
First off, Chris, I'm really, really excited that you're going to be coming into the Boston office for NAIFA Mass, because I think that we need someone with your powerful voice and story, and it's beautiful to see your success and your composure, and I even love the whole DEI that you put together. It was such an amazing, powerful time that when we were at the congressional conference. So I really appreciate everything that you do. It's very inspiring. I am going to say that NAIFA was just it was funny because when I got into the business, NAIFA had you get credits, CE credits, and then you get all these things. And then my business owner, I don't know anything about this business or industry when I came, so I was really overwhelmed because all these people were so friendly, and I was just okay, what's the catch here? And then I got invited to NAIFA for a CE credit, and then I asked my mentor at that time, and he's Rith, NAIFA advocates for our business, and I know that you have so many things going on, but because of NAIFA, we are able to do what we do every day. So do the dues and do the membership, and get involved if you can. But I know you're trying to just work on your business right now, but just pay the dues. It gets deducted out of your ledger, and they do a lot for our business. And I'm you know what? I appreciate that. And to be a young advisor and not know anything, doing that, I felt like I was part of a financial group as a whole. And I kind of felt like I kind of belonged in as a financial person, because I was contributing to a bunch of other, the industry as a whole. And I think when it really truly resonated with me was when Josh O'Gara, who is our president now, asked for us to join the board as a kind of a meeting. And I was really overwhelmed because I'm I don't know enough about this stuff to be part of the committee. What am I going to contribute? And then he kind of was so which committee you want to be in? I'm what? I was and then I also got Radaya to come with me too. And I kind of felt suckering her into it, because I was oh, we're going to be in the committee, and then we're going to have dinner, and then we'll just get to figure out what committees it is and if we fit right in or not, but we fit right in. And they were such a great family. And we blindfolded, right. And was okay. And then Josh was just oh, we would love for you to be in grassroots, because we don't have anybody female or ethnicity wise. It would be great to, I was okay, you know what? Radaya is passionate about DEI. She went that route. And I was you know what? I'll just take up the challenge. And I went into grassroots. But even that was just a lot, because doing the political things is a whole different ballgame. And then I love selling life insurance. And my mentor was Rith, if it wasn't for NAIFA, imagine life insurance being taxable. I was really? That was ever on the, he's yes.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was I can't even imagine that, because that's my bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing that. And I think more people should know about it. Right. And I'm oh, that's awful. I'm okay, NAIFA, you get my money. And I know I'm getting my money's worth because you did that. But
And
I mean,
always having to protect that, right? And probably the only way to get that real generational wealth transfer. For that many people, that's really the only opportunities at life insurance. Yeah.
Yeah. And it should be the foundation of any kind of financial planning, right? So then we went to MDRT and we got to meet the national, right? Like it was pretty big and like everybody was so welcoming and I felt really good. And I really felt like a connection with everybody that I met at the MDRT that Kevin put together last minute, right? Last minute. And again, I don't believe in coincidences because when I was there, I felt like I was supposed to be there and meet the people that I was supposed to. And we ended up going to Apex at the bit more. I like asked for Dan to pinch me because I'm like, I don't think I've ever in a million years as an immigrant thought that I would ever be here. And it was such a beautiful place. And like everybody was just so friendly. And I still remember Tom like coming up and he was just so sweet and meeting all the people. And I met Chris at the Apex at the bit more. And I was like floored with him. And I was kind of like, so like, and then when he did the rally of introducing the person up, and I was like, oh my God, this is fire. Like, this is who I want to like introduce me on stage. Like, this is amazing. And how amazing did he make that person feel, right? So it's just like, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to do it. I don't think I did a great job, but I did one because I was supposed to introduce somebody else as well on stage, Cody, one of the other speakers. And he thought I did good, but I mean, it wasn't anything Chris did, but I don't know, I tried. But it was so many great, brilliant ideas and meeting so many different amazing walks of life and their stories and their history of like being in this industry and their whys. And we bonded a lot. And then we went to the congressional conference and it really solidified what NAIFA is about. And it's funny because of the whole thing between us and NAIFA, like it was weird. But then our company had a really big conference call to talk about like the importance of NAIFA and joining forces with NAIFA and being part of NAIFA. So I really love that. And I think that maybe everything happens for a reason, because I think that here I am. I got to see that. I want to make this better. Like, how can we make this like relationship better with NAIFA so that we can do the recruits, we can have those memberships where we can grow and evolve. And I think that's what makes NAIFA very unique and different, right? It's like we are the foundation of that. And we are the collective of bringing all these people together so that we can have like that kind of connection and be able to build and learn and grow from each other. Because we are the resources. We have the resources within. Like, let's work on that and, make that foundation better and stronger. And it's going to be so exclusive. Like, people are going to be running to us than us going to them, because we're kind of amazing. And we have some amazing advisors here. So I don't know.
It's the cool club, right?
Yeah. I mean, they should have FOMO. Okay, you all, whoever's listening to this, should have FOMO if you're not part of NAIFA. Just saying.
Facts.
Just saying.
Yeah, facts. Yeah.
Those who don't know, I just found this out, that FOMO is fear of missing out. I had no idea.
I'm glad you said that.
I said I had no idea. So I'm just reiterating. So, Rith, is there anything else you want to share with us before we get off to the speed round? Speed round is pretty much, I'm going to ask you some questions first to come off the top of your head. People may know you as an advisor, but people don't know you. So in that round, we're going to get to know you a little bit.
I just want to say that thank you, Suzanne, for thinking of me, and NAIFA for everything that you guys have done for me, because you've opened my eyes to the political advocacy that we do. And I'm getting so many like meetings with politicians to events. And it's been a wild roller coaster in this industry. And it's been very humbling. And Chris, thank you for having me as well. So I don't think I have anything else to say.
All right, Suzanne, do you have anything else before we go to the speed round?
I think I'd ask one last question, Rith, which is we're about to launch into our Future Leaders program next month, which talks to university and college students and sometimes high school as well. So anything you want to say to them about why they should be a financial advisor like you? Why come into this industry?
I think that it's going to be, I think that's such an amazing thing that we're planning to do, because I worked recently with a young couple. I mean, they're also immigrants, and they have kids, 2 kids, a dog and a house, and they were getting into fights over financials, right? And how many really marriages that you see, and, you know, and you think about it, right? Like, their parents didn't know our system. Like, they're learning off of what their parents taught them, which is nothing. But the only way I got into getting them was because the mom had life insurance for the father who passed away. And that's why they were able to keep that house, and it was passed on to them. And, you know, and I sat there for 3 hours going budgeting with them. And it makes me sick to my core that our education system is failing our future generations and not teaching that kind of literacy of just budgeting. And I think that, like, it's amazing to have something like this. And I think that for the future people who want to come into this industry, I want you to think of this as a career. You're always growing, you're always learning, and you keep on being a student, a learner, a teacher, everything all in once, and just stay open. And if you want a job that pays you well and also give back in a way that you feel aligned, because I've never in my life, I always question myself when I'm in a job. I was working in the flower industry, I was working in the retail industry, and I always ask myself in the banking, I ask myself, I'm like, Rith, or I always ask God, I'm like, God, is this the job that you always wanted for me? Because I want to leave a mark. And I know that that couple that I worked with for 3 hours of budgeting, they will never forget me. And they send me people all the time. But because, you know, you do a good thing, you don't expect anything, you never expect anything, and fail often. But this job has given me this perspective of being aligned, right? Like, I'm able to live my dreams, and it's also shows really well, and it's attractive to a lot of the new kids and the future generations. They admire it and they love it. And it is not an easy thing, because you also feel like your own celebrity because everybody's watching you. And, you know, I went through a divorce and I went through life, right? But everybody's watching you because I've always held that torch of trying to be the best person so that I can be a good role model to the young people that are watching. So it's not an easy task, but to take the challenge on. And if you can help someone, I think that financials are the biggest things that we can truly help people. And that's part of the reason why I'm in this industry. And there's a lot of rewards and you meet a lot of cool people in this industry. So I'm really looking forward to doing the literacy for financial literacy in the schools and doing that. So
awesome. So Suzanne, let's speed to the lightning round. I know we don't have sound effects, but
this is so cool. I love this podcast. I didn't know what to expect, but I'm like, this is funny.
You're killing it. You're killing it.
So Rith, here's how this works. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Those questions, whatever comes to mind first, you just answer the question. Okay, it's not a well thought out process of, hey, you know, we're not going to ask you political things. We're not going to ask you things that you don't know the answer to. Okay, it may provoke some thought, but that's about it. Okay, is that fair?
Okay, all right.
Okay, cool. So we'll ask the first question. First question is, you live in Boston, yes?
Yes.
So we're going to say the
Boston
Red Sox. We're going to say the Red Sox or the Boston Bruins.
Oh, God. Red Sox.
Why?
Because I fell in love with the Red Sox before I fell in love with the Bruins.
Okay, see that.
First love.
Yeah, you're loyal to my first love.
Okay, so all right, so here we go. Okay, so
when you were there for the breaking of the curse, that's like the most memorable. I'm so grateful to God that I got to experience like the championship with like Pedro Martinez and all, like the camaraderie. Come on, like
maybe you did it. Maybe it was your
you just can't. Like that was my first love.
So you ready to go? Here we go.
Yes.
So Favorite restaurant in Boston T? Everybody listen up.
Oh God, there's so many different ones. Oh God. Okay, this
Give me
is
one
really...
good one.
Okay, it's a hole in the wall, but I love it. I would have to go with God. Oh, this is so tough. It's a little like Japanese, like little Japan. It's in a mall, but you get all the different fusions of food. And there's yakitori, there's sushi, there's like hamburger plates. Like, I don't know. That's my favorite, but it's a hole in the wall, but it's the most greatest food that fusion you'll get.
Okay. Got it. Mentor. Who would you say is your mentor?
I would have to say Peter McEwen and Norman Chipman.
Okay. Why though? Why did those two come to mind?
Because if it wasn't for them, I would not be where I am.
Okay, great. All right. If you could go back in time and have a conversation with anybody in history, whether dead or alive, who would you choose to have dinner with and why?
Oh, that's a really good one, Chris. You guys came up with some good questions. I never thought of that. That's really profound. Oh God. I think George Orwell. I know 1984.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a toss between that and Scott Fitzgerald, The Gatsby.
Right. Both good ones.
Yeah. But I would probably say George Orwell because I think his concept of the world is in like the whole micro and macro. It's such a small book, right? In an animal farm, like it's just, like it just brings me back. And there will be so many questions I would like to ask him, like for his mind.
Okay. Advice. If I started in the business today, and you were having a conversation with your 10-year-old self, the first day you started in the business, what advice would you give yourself now that you're where you are?
My advice to my 10-year-old self is to, I would say, fail often, learn, and find out who you are and just dive into that, because that's the stories that we be present. I think being present is probably like my number one, because I think everybody says fail often all the time. But if I could say one thing to be advice, is to be present, because I think that's the secret sauce, is to being present in anything you do and whoever you're talking to, even if it's a stranger, because you don't know that profound conversation with that stranger could change somebody's life.
Okay. And then the last question, which is right up your alley. Okay. So if we had to give you became a chef today, and we had to give you a name with your insurance prowessness, what would we call you? Chef?
Chef Rith.
Why that?
Powerful. Come on. Like I don't want to change it. And my last name New means rainbow. So powerful rainbow. Like I love my name. So
all right. Well,
that's pretty amazing.
Thank you so much, Rith. We appreciate all you do. The world is better because A, you're in it. B, NAIFA's better because you're a part of it. Suzanne, Rith, do you have anything else really quickly? We have to wrap up. And then we're going to go Suzanne, and then I'll close us out.
Thank you, guys. I love you guys. And I love my NAIFA family. So I hope everybody takes something out of this podcast. Appreciate you guys' time and introducing me to the podcast. I love it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Suzanne.
I would just say thank you, Rith, so much. You are just the epitome of what it means to belong to NAIFA. You're such a great example to everybody out there about what NAIFA is all about and the kind of people that we attract. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And to all of you out there, thank you for tuning in to today's Advisor Today's podcast, where we uplift and promote the future of advisors and educate the people around us for the betterment of this family as a whole. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks, NAIFA Nation. We'll see you soon. And thanks, Rith. We appreciate you being here. And thanks, Suzanne. We close it out. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series. Make sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.